Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Kondo. So I appreciate seeing you all in the Zendo and in the individual Zoom boxes. It's wonderful to practice together, and I'm very grateful for your support this morning for my talk. So my name is Jisei. I'm a senior student at the Village Zendo. I'm speaking from South Burlington, Vermont. This morning it's actually sunny, and that's like a big change. It's cold. It's winter. So in thinking about this talk, a few things have been on my mind. And I'm not sure exactly how this talk will come together, so we'll see. Our study text for winter session is Dogen's Instructions for the Cook. The Tenzo Kuoken is the Japanese. I've read different versions in past years. This time I've been reading the version by Kosho Uchiyama Roshi with his commentary. And I'm very, very grateful that we're studying the Tenzo Kyoken now. It's a wonderful text always, but it feels particularly so now in these unsettled and unsettling times. I'm very grateful to be studying it now. So it's felt very important, helpful to be reading, sitting with Dogen's words, his encouragement, insights, and wisdom, and also listening to the extraordinary talks during this time period of intensive practice. There have been so many wonderful talks, both before Garrison, during Garrison, and since Garrison on this wonderful text. And the personal expressions have just been so powerful from our teachers and senior students. So on my radar right now is also that tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day. And also President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration. Same day. How did that happen? How did the moon, stars, and planets align for that to happen? It would be easy to go down a rabbit hole trying to understand what is ultimately unknowable. Things will unfold, and all we can do is our best to be of benefit, as usual, every day. Practice. Zazen, our practice 24/7, is the way. Moment by moment. Tomorrow is another drop in time. A dewdrop in time. I hope to navigate the day in a thoughtful way, awake and aware, as we say here and now. Thich Nhat Hanh, the well-known Vietnamese Zen master, I'm sure many of you know and are familiar with him and his teachings. One thing that he spoke about was that for our health, body and mind, it's as important to consider what ingredients you put in your mind as what you put into your body. He encouraged us each to be mindful, careful about what we ingest. The news we take in, what we read, TV, cell phone use, that it's really important for our practice and to stay balanced and serving and doing what is of benefit to others and ourselves. Staying informed is very important, but we also don't want to get entangled, caught up in unhealthy thinking, which causes suffering. So these are just a lot of the things which have been, I've been kind of percolating at this particular time. But now I want to go back to instructions to the cook. I mean, first off, reading instructions to the cook, we just feel the spirit in his instructions. Exert all your energy. Handle all with respect. Pay full attention to your work. Give it our all, wherever we are, whatever we're doing. He writes, quote, "When you prepare food, never view the ingredients from some commonly held perspective, nor think about them only with your emotions. Maintain an attitude that tries to build great temples from ordinary greens. Build great temples from ordinary greens. That expounds the Buddha Dharma through the most trivial activity. When making a soup with ordinary greens, do not be carried away by feelings of dislike towards them, nor regard them lightly. Neither jump for joy because you have been given ingredients of superior quality to make a special dish. By the same token, that you do not indulge in a meal because of its particularly good taste, there is no reason to feel aversion towards an ordinary one. Do not be negligent and careless just because the ingredients seem plain, and hesitate to work more diligently with materials of superior quality. Your attitude towards things should not be contingent upon their quality. A person who is influenced by the quality of a thing, or who changes his speech or manner according to the appearance or position of the people he meets, is not a man or woman working in the way. It is crucial not to grumble about the quality of the ingredients, but rather a temper which sees and respects them fully for what they are." So just to read a little bit more, and then I'll do a little talking. "When handling and selecting grains, do so wholeheartedly with a pure mind and without trying to evaluate their quality in the same way in which you would prepare a splendid feast. The many rivers which flow into the ocean become the one taste of the ocean. When they flow into the pure ocean of the Dharma, there are no such distinctions as delicacies or plain food. There is just one taste, and it is the Buddha Dharma, the world as it is. In cultivating the germ of aspiration to live out the way, as well as in practicing the Dharma, delicious and ordinary tastes are the same and not two. There's an old saying, the mouth of a monk is like an oven, remember this well. So we can understand these passages, get his message through the metaphor of our everyday lives, the ingredients as our everyday experiences unfolding. This morning, I opened up my computer before our sit and was shocked to see that it was not working properly. There was like an old email that had never been sent out on my screen. And there it was, and the screen was frozen. I couldn't delete it. I hadn't printed out my talk yet. What to do? That was an after breakfast ingredient that I was being served. Okay, I tried a few things, screen unfroze, printed out my talk, and then I sighed. Our human experience is marked by the seasons, sickness and health, thriving and decline, birth and death. And that might all sound kind of, vague and, but really talking about the seasons is just all of the ups and downs of what is happening throughout our day, and the things that are easy, the things that are challenging, whatever it is. And the times we live in, the seasons, and which feel extremely challenging right now, marked by division, war and destruction, climate change, wildfires, and flooding. And here we are now, sitting and talking and listening together, doing what we can, practicing, being awake, being here and now, in relationship and love, which we experience so intimately in our community here in the Village Zendo, in relationship and love. And this love and relationship is being cultivated in many places around the world. Different traditions, rituals, practices. I think we must just do our best to be of benefit and know that it does make a difference. Every small act, every interaction impacts the world and changes the world we live in. Dogen speaks of zazen, our practice, as cultivating our capacity to be in touch with reality. So that means clear-sighted, respectful, treating whatever arises in our lives without discriminating, good or bad. So there's a very well-known faith mind poem by Zen Cook, which echoes this point that Dogen is making about treating all the ingredients of our life with respect, regardless of what they are. Just going to read a few lines. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. If you wish to see the truth, then hold no opinions for or against anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. When the deep meaning of things is not understood, the mind's essential peace is disturbed to no avail. So as we practice over time, and my experience is that we're able to develop more equanimity and balance, holding ourselves and others with greater openness and compassion. And I'm going to share an interaction that I had a few days ago that I've thought a lot about since. So I was visiting a patient at the University of Vermont Medical Center. I volunteer in a program in which I visit elder patients who come into the hospital under traumatic conditions. There's a geriatric nurse who supervises the program. There are about 5 of us who volunteer, and assigns patients to visit. I arrive every Tuesday and find usually about 12 sheets, each one designating a patient, telling me a little bit about that person, which is in a folder earmarked for me. So that morning, I arrived at a patient's door. It was my first visit of the day. It was on an acute care floor. An aide was just leaving the room. She seemed to be flying out the door. She seemed very scattered, like a whirlwind of energy. I saw that she had just left a glass of ice and also a glass of water on the patient's tray table. The patient was a large woman, completely immobile, unable to move any part of her body. I imagined a beached whale. She appeared to be uncomfortable. I kind of assessed pain, though she was not being demonstrative, but there were sort of subtle clues kind of indicating probably a lot of discomfort. She had a nose cannula in her nostrils for oxygen. There were multiple machines by the side of her bed that were just click-clacking away, and occasionally ping-ping. And I know that one of the machines was monitoring oxygen, and I don't know what the other, possibly her heart. This was just some of what I noticed. Kind of everything felt like questions kind of hanging in the air. Her arms were covered with large kind of red blistered patches. There was a clear tube that looked like an IV that was like right in front of me that hung from, I'm not sure what, I never located it. The tube, though, was kind of a mess with specks of different, what looked like body matter. I could only wonder what it was. So I introduced myself. I offered my help with anything she needed, or to sit with her and talk. I told her about the help program that I volunteer in, and explained it to her. She was very direct and clear minimal words. I mean, she really couldn't talk much because it took too much effort, so much out of her. She said, feed ice, get spoon, choke, can't drink water. Before entering her room, I had suited up, observing the sign contact precautions. So I had put on a mask, gloves, yellow gown so as to keep me from having any physical contact with her or any surface in the room because she had MRSA. So when she said, get spoon, feed ice, I had to get a spoon from the kitchen. I stood in the doorway so that I could flag someone down to get a spoon for me. Otherwise, ungown, get a spoon, gown up. And I was very relieved when a busy nurse came along and was willing to get a spoon and bring it to me. For the next hour, I sat in a chair pulled close to her bed. And our communication was mostly nonverbal. With my eyes focused and concentrating as hard as I could, I watched her mouth moving and listened to the sounds of ice crunching, which shifted. When her mouth came to a resting position, her facial muscles relaxed and the sounds of ice breaking down softened and stopped. And at that time, it was time for the next spoonful. In the beginning of feeding her, if I didn't respond immediately, she would turn her head ever so slightly towards me, but not making eye contact. That was her cue. I learned pretty quickly to just keep giving her ice again and again without missing more than a split second. We were like a well-oiled machine operation. Rarely did our eyes meet. She was the director, I her assistant. At one point, she looked at me and said, this was like a big shift. Sometimes I just want to grab the water and drink. Her words conveyed the difficulty of not being able to drink and her great thirst, her frustration, and also her restraint. I thought of zazen and felt my own restraint. I felt myself in her. And the moment in zazen when I recognize that a thought arises, come back to the breath, the body, be aware and present. I offered a few words to mirror what she was saying and to communicate that I was with her, saw her, and she smiled. An RN came in with a BiPAP machine and mask that the RN hoped would deliver more oxygen. And as the RN put it on the patient's face, the patient's whole face contorted in intense pain. No, she said. The RN removed it. I acknowledged her pain and her eyes affirmed. We went back to our ice dance. I marveled at her fierce determination, aliveness, activity, and I bore witness to her spirit. Eventually, seeing her slow down, I asked if she was tired. Yes, she said. I said, time for you to rest. I'll leave now. Our eyes met, and silently we said goodbye. So much expressed passed between us. I saw her in myself. And I woke up the next day, literally before I opened up my eyes. Who was she? The great conductor Marin Alsop of the Baltimore Symphony? Was she Jiminy Cricket skillfully waving a baton in Pinocchio? And as I reflected on my visit at the hospital, I thought about instructions for the cook and thought about the patient as an exceptional tenzo who offered me a fine meal, a teaching. She gave all of herself to her task, to her activity. She did not spare the Dharma assets. There was self-respect, respect for me, honesty, and no excess, no ingredient wasted, no extra word, not even a quarter grain of rice from Luling. She was so direct about what she needed and natural in receiving help. She was real and human, her frustration, pain, thirst, appreciation, nothing hidden. Communication went to essence. We felt each other and cared. Intimacy. I appreciated her and our time together. I would describe the ingredients of this patient's life at the time we met as ordinary greens. We might say difficult, painful, and challenging. How many people in the hospital were there going through similar challenges? How many? Dogen writes, a dish is not necessarily superior because you have prepared it with choice ingredients, nor is a soup inferior because you have made it with ordinary greens. So now I'm just going to take a look at case 27 in the Book of Serenity. In the case, Phaon points to a blind. Phaon pointed to a blind. Two monks went at the same time and rolled up the blind. Phaon said, one gain, one loss. And the verse, pines are straight, brambles are crooked, cranes are tall, ducks are short. In the age of the ancient emperors, people forgot about both government and anarchy. Such peace, a hidden dragon in the abyss. Such freedom, as soaring bird sheds its tether. Nothing could be done about the patriarchs coming from the West. Within, gain and loss are half and half. Reeds go along with the wind turning in the air. The boat cuts off the flow and reaches the shore. Spiritually, sharp mendicants here. Observe Phaon's method. The teacher, Phaon, points to a form, then points again with words. One gain, one loss. One has it, one doesn't. And the verse, pines are straight, brambles are crooked, cranes are tall, ducks are short. We are all different. I think so often we are challenged by how people seem different. Dogen conveys that each one of us is unique, with unique gifts and energies. Each of us comes into the world with our uniqueness and leaves the world never to be replicated again in anyone else. He encourages us to appreciate our differences and each other. Kosho Uchiyama Roshi writes at the end of his commentary, "There is one more point I would like to make concerning the life of the Buddha Dharma. During his last years, there was an expression that Sawaki Roshi used and emphasized a great deal. Gain is delusion, loss is enlightenment. In our daily lives, if we live fully aware of the most fundamental reality, which is that our lives are everything we encounter, that everything which befalls us is our true self, then it has to become obvious that practically speaking, gaining is delusion and losing is enlightenment." But that's not the final word. I've read completely the opposite in other commentaries. But food for thought. And Dogen writes to this point, you should think only about how to best serve the community, having no fear of poverty. As long as your mind is not limited, you will naturally receive unlimited fortune. So practice is what we can do now during these unsettling times, and always meet the moment, awake and open, do what's called for, what serves appropriate action. And I'm going to end with the words from the Myogata. First 72 labors brought us this food. We should know how it comes to us. Second, as we receive this offering, we should consider whether our virtue and practice deserve it. Third, as we desire the natural order of mind to be free from clinging, we must be free from greed. Fourth, to support our life, we take this food. Fifth, to attain our way, we take this food. All those of the spiritual world, now I give you this offering. This food will pervade everywhere. First, this food is for the three treasures. Second, it is for our teachers, parents, nation, and all sentient beings, and to the life of the Dharma worlds. Third, it is for all beings in the 6 worlds. Thus we eat this food with everyone. We eat to stop all suffering, to practice good, to save all sentient beings, and to accomplish our Buddha way.